My name is Misty, and today I wanted to come on here and tell y'all about my testimony and my trials, tribulations to finding Jesus. I'll start at the very beginning, in my high school years. When I was 16 years old is when I was introduced to marijuana and alcohol. That's what my so-called friends gave me as a birthday present. The next year went by. That's when another person that I was supposed to have been close to had introduced me to meth in a motel at 17 years old doing meth. And then my senior year of high school, I barely graduated, just barely slid by. By that time, I was completely out of control. Grandmother was trying to get me home, wouldn't come home, because I thought, I'm almost 19 years old. I don't have to listen to you. Well, I wish I would have. So my senior year of high school comes and goes, but at the end of my senior year, I met a guy, which is now my husband, and we got married on a Sunday, but I graduated Friday. We got married on that Sunday, so everything was done on the same weekend. I was going to go to school to be a psychologist, child psychologist. I blew all of that off, and I ran off and I got married. So married at 19, I got pregnant with my first daughter, and about a year after that, and then a year after that, I was pregnant with my second daughter. So we continued, I continued to do what I was doing all along, just drugs, partying. He came from a background where he had been doing the same thing, but now we had two little girls in the mix. But even that didn't stop us from doing the things that we were doing. This continued from our whole marriage. We've been married for 21 years now in May. So this continued from 1998 in our marriage, from 1998 until 2009. It was just a mess. The marijuana, the alcohol, meth, cocaine, ecstasy, all of it was in the mix all those years. And we were just getting wore down. We had party after party, friends of friends of friends over at the house. People we didn't even know were there. It was just every house we moved to, and we moved a lot, was just party houses. And again, we had two little girls. So in 2009, we hit rock bottom. We could not hit any further down than what we were. Our marriage was in shambles. It was just messed up in every way possible. These two little girls seeing some things that they shouldn't have seen. So in 2009, me and my husband separated. He went and stayed with his mother, and I went with someone else. For 7 months we were separated. The kids were going back and forth at this time. And everything was just a complete mess. They always say the grass is greener on the other side, and it's definitely not. When you do find someone that loves you, you stick with them. I was married young, at 19. I didn't really have an adult life and to get everything out before I jumped into a marriage at such a young age. So, back to 2009. We wound up separating for 7 months. And then one day I had called him and told him that I wanted to be back with him. I was sorry. And he took me back. He came down and we packed up my things and we went back to his mother's house, and that's where we stayed for a while. And they were, and they are really good Christian, godly people. And I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to listen to their rules. I did not want to. I just didn't want to be there. For those reasons, I wanted to still do me. So, by the end of that year, I tried to commit suicide several times. I had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, depression, and anxiety disorder right after my second daughter was born in 2000. So when we were at his mother's house, like I said, I tried to commit suicide several times, in and out of the hospital, in and out of psychiatric hospitals many times. And at that time, I truly felt like I had done so much wrong that I could never come back from that. And the guilt from hurting my children hurt really bad, and I just could not seem to get over that. The guilt from hurting him, just everything was on my shoulders. It was just hard, and I just wanted to give up. So I came out of the hospital the last time, and living with my mother-in-law, we had to go to church. That was just a rule there, that if you're gonna live in my home, you're gonna have to go to church. So we did. And I was still just struggling. I was struggling really bad. Mentally, physically, I was just still down. I kept hearing about this lady. Everywhere I would go, they would tell me about this lady. Her name was Shirley. And I kept wondering, why is everybody telling me about this lady? So I got curious to wonder why, and so I'm just gonna see what's going on. So I found out who she was, and she was a wonderful woman that ran a Christian-based ministry, a woman's home for troubled women. So I called her one day and I spoke with her, and we went over some things, and I told her that I would like to come and stay at her house, at her ministry. So there were some that were against that for the fact that I always started things and stopped, started and stopped. I was good and I wasn't. And it was always a back and forth situation with me. So I couldn't blame them for thinking that she's up to something again. So we went to my mother-in-law's church and met up with Shirley. And that afternoon, I was living in the woman's home with me and 2 other girls at the time. And I got there and I just felt out of place, broken, worthless, just everything bad. So we go in there, I go to my room and I set my things down, and she says, everybody come in the living room, we're going to do a Bible study. I'd never done a Bible study in my life. So I just thought, this is just weird. And what have I got myself into? So I go in there with the other girls and Miss Shirley, and she says to open your Bible up to, I can't remember which book, but open your Bible up. I didn't even have a Bible. So she let me use one of hers. And I was 30 years old. And that was the first time in my life that I'd ever opened a Bible. I didn't know how to read it. I didn't understand it. I didn't get the concept of it on the books and the chapter. It was all just confusing to me. So that continued, and every night, and we had to learn a verse every night. And we had to go to church on Sundays and Wednesdays, which was the same church that my mother-in-law had went to, so I'd already been going to that church. So one night, well, I'll back it up. I stayed there for a couple of months, and it was supposed to have been a 2-year program, but I only stayed a couple of months. So I left there and went back to my mother-in-law's house, and my youngest daughter, Brittany, came up to me and she said, I want to get saved. She was pretty small at this time. I was like, okay, so Brittany gets saved. Then my oldest daughter comes up. She wanted to get saved. So they both got saved and they both got baptized. A little later, I realized that I wanted to give my life to the Lord. And I finally understood that all of the stuff that I was doing, everything that I had been living for, it wasn't right. And that only God could fill all of that temporary stuff. So I was able to, like I said, I gave my life to the Lord. Then my husband wanted to get saved also. So we were all 4, our whole family was saved. And then we were able to get our marriage back together. We got our home back in 2010. We're still living in the same place to this day. And if it wasn't for Jesus and giving my life to Him and letting Him lead my life, lead my marriage, lead everything in me was just led by Jesus, I would not, and I know I would not, be here today to be able to tell my story, and in hopes that everyone else can come to Jesus too, because it's so much better. It's such a fulfilling inside, and you always have God to lean on. I don't think of suicide anymore, because I know that I have a purpose, and my purpose, I know, is to help other people through my struggles, to let them know that through God anything is possible. And I couldn't, I'm just so happy that I was able to find him and have a relationship with him. And my whole mindset of the way I used to think is just different. I do not want to do drugs. We have been sober since 2010. And it's an amazing feeling. I want to live, and I want to live. I want to do for God. I want to tell people about Jesus and how he changed my life. And I am forever grateful to say that I am a child of God and that he changed my life. And without him, I'm nobody. Thanks for listening.